Welcome back to my channel, guys. Today I'm going to be doing a review over my longbow or traditional bow setup I went and hunted with this year, and because I've always wanted to do it but just never decided to pull the trigger and buy another bow. And this year I finally did, and actually I bought a really great budget friendly option. So this year the bow I went with is this. You'll see it here. Whoop, let me flip it around. It's a big bow. This is the Black Hunter Longbow. And guys, this bow, you can find this like on Amazon, and you can find it on, there's another site that's like Amazon, like the Chinese version of that or something. And you can buy this bow for like $100. So I knew I wanted to get into this longbow hunting, but I didn't know if I'd really like it, or, if it just, I just didn't know if I'd really get into it and start hunting with it. So I decided I'd go cheap this year, buy a longbow, and I really wanted to try to kill a deer with a longbow on the public land. And ended up really loved hunting with this longbow. Sorry, this string's got a little stuff on it. But anyway, so yeah, I took this out hunting and I had a ball with it. I shot all year long with it, practiced with it, and just really ended up loving hunting with it. But I never killed a deer with it, unfortunately. But yeah, so I went with this Black Hunter. This is the 55-pound version, and it is 60 inches axle to axle, or there's not really an axle, but whatever. This doesn't count as an axle. And it probably only weighs like 2 pounds, but basically what you get with it is you get this limb, and then you get your handle here where it attaches here with an Allen wrench. And so basically they tell you with these longbows, so it's a breakdown longbow, so you can actually break this down, and it's only like this long in the 3 pieces, and you can travel with it anywhere. Like, it's just super small to pack down and easy to take down. It's just an Allen wrench, and basically when you put it together, you don't tighten it all the way down. You want to have some, like, not loose, but like, don't tighten it way down, because when you hook it up, everything starts stretching and it pulls these limbs back in. But yeah, so this is their longbow. They also have a recurve that has a bunch of different weights as well. Whatever you prefer. The recurve, I decided to just go with the longbow and just try it out. But yeah, the cool thing is, you can actually like buy all these different limbs. You can also just buy the limbs even cheaper and just test them out. Like, so you can start with 35-pound limbs as you're getting into it and practicing. And when you build up enough strength, you can keep going up in weight. You can buy like 30 to 60-pound limbs all on this bow, and just buy different limbs and keep upgrading. And also, I don't know if you have to upgrade the string, but you'd have to look at that. But yeah, so I went with 55, thinking which I definitely can. I've been shooting a 70-pound long or compound bow for a bunch of years now. And so I went with the 55-pound just because I knew I was going to be hunting with it. And like the legal limit in Indiana is like 35 pounds. So way over that. But so yeah, bought that, and only $100. It's so cheap to get into. And the other cool thing about the longbow is you don't have to buy a sight, a stabilizer. So those are things you would buy for your compound. So there's no stabilizer here anywhere. There's no sight. Your sight is basically with traditional bows. You're using your hand like this, and you're pulling like this manually with your hand, and then your rest is in your handle. And the other thing that this comes with is this leather or like stripping that goes on your rest here, so your arrow just sits right in there, and then that's your rest. So it's just the bow, which I don't know if a lot of people know that, but that's traditional bow hunting. It's just like they did back in the day with the Indians, and even before guns. That's how bows were. You didn't have all this fancy stuff on it like the compounds do now. This is just it. It's your bow, your hand, and an arrow, and that's it. So yeah, I went and bought this bow, and for $100, and then I bought the quiver. These quivers, you can find any kind of quiver. I can't find, I was looking at it before. I was trying to find where I bought this quiver, but this is like a leather quiver with snake skin in it. And then it basically attaches with this Velcro right here. And there's a bunch of different options like this. But I went with one that I could attach to the bow and just leave attached to the bow. So I just leave my arrows attached all the time. And really like it. It's been worked really well so far. And I have no complaints about it. You can go with a bunch of different options. You can do just a separate quiver that doesn't attach to your bow that you can just hang and carry in with you, or whatever, all personal preference again. And then what I've been shooting with is, so I decided to stick with my Victory archery arrows like I did with my other bow setup, just because I really liked them, and just decided not to, just basically not go away from what I like. So I went with Victory Archery's carbon trad traditional arrows in the 450 spine. So I went with the heavier spine. Now this is where I kind of go against my own thoughts on the whole heavyweight arrow. So since I'm shooting a longbow, it's not shooting that fast, and I basically wanted something that would really stick or have a lot of momentum going forward out of my longbow. So I went with the heavier spine arrow. They come with an 80 grain insert, so way heavier than my insert on my compound. And I even actually bought their screw-in. Victory Archery has these screw-in, so all their inserts have the screw-in part of it where you can actually screw in extra weight. So I think I'm running, if I remember correctly, a 100 grain insert. And then, like I said, going against what I do on my compound, I went with the Magnus Stinger 4-blade 150 grain broadhead. Sorry, it's a little dirty from all the hunting I was doing. I should get to cleaning these actually. Whoops. But I've been shooting these, so I went with these. These are like a really great cheap option if you're getting into it. So these are like 40 bucks for 3 of them. Broadheads can get really expensive. I know it's the most important thing, but like I said, I was kind of trying to go on a budget here. These carbon traditional arrows aren't as expensive either, so I tried to do everything like on a budget just because I didn't know if I was going to get into it. So yeah, so pretty cheap broadhead, but man, I've heard such great reviews out of these. Like everybody that uses them says they're easy to sharpen and really do great work when they get shot at an animal. So that's what I was running with these, and I shot practice with them before I went out and shot just like my field points, had no tuning issues or anything. And then I went with these white feather fletchings. So I went with the traditional, actually, so I don't know if a lot of people probably don't know this, but traditional bows, when you're shooting off a rest like that and it's hitting on the wood, you can't shoot plastic fletchings like you would out of your compounds like everybody does, because it'll deflect the arrow in all different ways. You have to use actual feather fletchings because they will just compress when they go through the wood and stay straight, unlike a plastic fletching. So that's what I ran with this year. And like I said, I unfortunately did not get any opportunities. I hunted all of Kentucky with it. I got close to getting opportunities on the public land with it, but just never got to fling one. I think my max range on this is probably 20 yards, which is a huge difference than compared to the compound. And like I said, so the other cool thing is about this bow is you don't actually have to buy anything to shoot with it. You can probably just shoot with your gloves that you hunt with. But I went and bought this 3-fingered glove that I use with it. It's a neat. I think it's only like 13 bucks or something, like really cheap. But this is what I use, and this is all personal preference too. I do 3 fingers below the arrow, so there's my nock right there. So I would just shoot like this, 3 fingers below, and then just pull back and anchor like this, and then just let it go. And then the other thing is, so yeah, you can buy that or you don't have to buy that, which is nice. And then the only other thing about this is you can break down or put the string on your longbow. You do have to buy this stringing device basically that goes on the ends of your longbow here. Let me show you. So it goes on here and goes on here, and you basically flip this upside down and stick your foot on that and then pull it up, and it releases the tension on the strings, and then you can slide the strings down your limbs and de-string it basically to take down the limbs or take the string off, put a new string on, or just if you're not going to shoot it for a while, just take it off and not have to worry about it. But yeah, like I said, I really like this longbow. I think it's a great option if you're even just getting into bow shooting. Longbows are a great way to kind of just figure out how your form and everything, and just a cheaper way instead of having to get all into all the specs on compound sights and all that stuff. You could just get this real cheap and just start flinging arrows at targets and just figure it out. Yeah, the only downside is it's 60 inches long, so it's huge bow, and it basically that's the only real probably downside I'd say to it over a compound is it's just big in the tree and in the ground blind or on the ground. It's just a lot more cumbersome to hunt with. So that's the only downside, and you can't really shoot as far with it. But I really enjoyed this bow. I highly recommend it. Like I said, just look up Black Hunter Longbow. It'll pop right up, and you can either get longbow or a recurve bow, just Black Hunter. And I think if you're thinking about getting into it, go ahead and try this bow out. I really enjoyed it, and I plan on hunting hard with it again this year. I really want to get a longbow kill on film, since I've gotten my compound bow kills on film, and really just want to get my first kill with this, because I've basically hunted with a handgun, rifle, muzzleloader, compound bow, and I really just want to try a new challenge, and really think that's the cool thing about hunting. You can always just keep trying new things. There's so many different weapons to hunt with, and they're all available to us. But yeah, great budget option. And let me know if you guys try it out or have any questions, and thanks for watching.